It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. Going to start off today with Teamsters General President Sean O'Brien. This picture. What in God's name were you thinking? It was reported on Thursday that on Wednesday, Sean O'Brien, the president of the Teamsters, sat down with Donald Trump in Mar-a-Lago for a discussion around important issues that faced the Teamsters Union. Evidently had a productive discussion. And I got to tell you, I know the Teamsters have a strategic initiatives department. I know they've got a political department. I know they got some people over there who think they know what they're doing. This is stupid. This is probably one of the dumbest things I've seen in 35 years of being a Teamsters member, in 30 plus years of being a political activist, in the nearly 20 years I've been doing this little gig. Probably the dumbest thing I've seen, by far. Because Donald Trump is a guy who has shown his hand. He has shown what kind of a president he is going to be, because we saw what he was. Trump is not a supporter of workers' rights. He's not a supporter of the right to organize. He doesn't support collective bargaining. He doesn't support a worker's right to strike. He supports nothing that organized labor, that organized workers stand for. He has said straight out, he supports the anti-worker right to work laws. You know, no rights, no work, but hey, lots of profits for corporate America. No power for working people. Remember Janus, Sean? You remember the decision that Trump's appointee to the Supreme Court helped usher through that made our entire nation a no rights at work nation for the public sector? Remember that? Ring a bell? Why would you platform someone like Donald Trump in the labor world? Do I need to remind you that the Trump NLRB ruled in favor of employers time and time again? In fact, so often that many unions stopped bringing cases before the NLRB altogether. Many of my friends in the Teamsters, that the Teamster-led NLRB made it easier for employers to classify workers as independent contractors who can't be union members. Ring a bell? Does this click? The fact that the Trump folks gutted the Labor Department and the regulations that protect workers' health, their safety, their wages, their benefits, any of this? That they filled every regulatory body with corporate shills who attacked workers, their wages, their benefits, their conditions. Any of this popping up? That at every single turn, Trump and his appointees pushed policies that increased corporate power over working people? Any of this catching? Any of this catching that Trump's a scab crossed picket lines of striking workers? Does this anything? That Trump, made lots of promises, never lived up to any of them, and that you've platformed him before January 6th? And basically a slap in the face to Joe Biden, who, as Representative Bill Pascrell points out in his tweet, a reminder that when Democrats saved the pensions of 1 million truckers, every single Republican in Congress voted no. And voted to tell the Teamsters to drop dead. Every Republican. Now, Donald Trump had 4 years to save those pensions and get the Butch Lewis Act passed. Did nothing, was never going to do anything. Why would you take a photo with him at Mar-a-Lago? I don't get it. Sorry, I just don't get it. The fact that, at the end of last year, President Biden issued an executive order making project labor agreements mandatory on all federal contracts over $35 million. Something Donald Trump hates. looking at the NLRB under Biden, I have no idea why you would choose to platform someone like Donald Trump. It makes no sense. Other than maybe some genius in the strategic initiatives department or the communications department or the political department said, hey, we're not getting enough attention. Well, guess what? You're getting a bunch of attention now because I'm being inundated with my Teamster brothers and sisters across the country who are not thrilled. Quite angry, in fact. And quite frankly, whoever convinced you, Sean, to do this should be fired immediately. There should be consequences. I voted for you, buddy. I'm pulling for you. I want you to do well. This was a bad idea. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Was it a mistake to platform Donald Trump a couple of days before January 6th and marry the Teamsters up with that mess? Especially for a guy who did nothing to help when he had the chance. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Right back.
I've been driving buses for 5 years, and my day-to-day routine is I wake up a little earlier than most people. I get on a bus, I go out, I pick up some students and make sure they get to school nice and safe. Here in Fairbanks, Alaska, that can be a challenge because of the winter weather and the icy roads. But I love the job. So the Teamsters are great. They provide us a lot of protections. They've always taken care of their people, made sure that our jobs were secure. We didn't have to worry about whether or not we'd have a job from day to day.
And that's amazing because before we'd be working 4, 6, 8 hours a day and only earning minimum wage was real difficult to make a living. And then the Teamsters pushed a law so we make something we can live off of and not have to have a second job. What absolutely gives me peace of mind, the union membership allows me to focus on this job without having to worry about whether or not my family is going to be taken care of. I'm Andrew Case, and I'm proud to be Teamsters Local 959.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
So again, tomorrow is going to be January 6th. And I think everybody remembers where they were on January 6th, 2021. I was glued to the TV watching what I'm told now was, a fun day. We had the board game we talked about yesterday, the funniest day in American history, they say. Another person told me it was, the Clintons who put on a little display. The FBI did it. There's all these theories, all this rewrite. The Epic Times has a rewrite documentary. All this stuff telling us what we saw with our own eyes was not true. And here to share some thoughts on what we can expect on January 6th and what other tall tales will come along. And that's why I've asked our good friend Chris Hahn to come talk with us. Chris is the host of the Aggressive Progressive podcast. Chris, thanks for taking time for us.
Anytime. How you doing? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. Hope you had a great holiday.
I did.
So, it's only been 3 short years, and already the story has completely flipped. No responsibility whatsoever for Trump, from what I'm told. Nothing was done wrong. In fact, the insurrectionists, they were welcomed in. The police, helped them come in. In fact, I had one person tell me it was actually the FBI who broke the windows. It wasn't the people who we actually saw break the windows. Are you surprised by this?
I'm not surprised. There is a party in this country that is devoid from any reality. And the people who are not devoid from reality are too weak to tell the truth. The problem for Republicans is that nobody wants to lead. They want to follow.
Right.
They want to follow Trump. They want to follow people who support Trump. And they're afraid to tell the truth. They were telling the truth after January 6th, and there are, exceptions to the rule. There are some people who are out there telling the truth about this. But the vast majority of Republicans are afraid to tell the truth because they're afraid of what it will do to them. And I always ask the question, what's the point of being a member of Congress? What's the point of being a senator if you're not going to lead?
Right.
And in America, what better thing can you lead than to lead your people away from a man who does not have the best interests of America at heart, who planned an insurrection, should be held responsible and accountable for that insurrection. And at every chance that they have been given an off-ramp to get rid of this guy, get them out of their lives, they have passed. They have decided to follow him and take the easy path and support him and allow him to run roughshod over them and their plans. And I'm afraid that it is looking more and more likely this man's going to be the nominee for the Republicans, barring, I've said this, if he's south of 50% in Iowa, it's a loss. And it could actually lead to him losing in New Hampshire. He set expectations so high politically, and I think when you set your expectations high, you better meet them.
Right.
If you don't, it's a loss, even if it's a win. So we'll see. But I think it's not looking good. I think his primary opponents have failed to adequately define him as an insurrectionist, as a narcissist who has only his own interests at heart, who is bent on revenge and not on helping the American people achieve the American dream. And yeah, I think this is a very important inflection point in the history of this country, and we'll see where it goes.
I say all the time,
I
Chris,
think that we will ultimately prevail, but I think,
yeah, one of these things I say all the time, Democrats fall in love, Republicans fall in line. And we are watching Republicans fall in line each and every day behind Trump. I mean, I think I've been saying, from the beginning of all this, there's no way he's not going to be the nominee. I've had a bunch of people say, no, he's not going to be he's going to be the nominee, I believe. I don't think there's any way to stop him other than, I don't know if you saw the Jesse Waters show where they had the tarot card reader come out, and the card she flips happened to be the death card. I don't wish bad things. I'm not going to go there.
I don't wish bad things on him. I wish every day I wake up and I read in the paper that Donald Trump's decided to go live in Scotland and play golf on his magnificent Scottish golf course and never bother us again.
Yes.
Look, Donald, I know you're a fan of this show. I know you watch Rick's show every week religiously. You only have so many more summers where you will hit from the tips. And you should take your time and do that and not bother with this whole political thing, and move on.
Yeah.
And forget about it.
I'm right there with
live your life.
Go
take all
do
the
that.
money you stole from the rubes who've been giving you money the last couple of years. Go take that, get on your plane with your name on it, and go live in Scotland at your golf course. It's a beautiful course from what I'm told.
No. Go chase a ball around.
Right.
Go do your thing.
I'll make a deal right now. I'll pardon you. I'll call up Biden and we'll have him pardon you. Just go.
Absolutely. I said that from the beginning. I just be done. Let's move on. Let's move forward. But here's the thing. I mean, there is no moving forward at this point because, I think it's only going to get crazier. I think the chaos level is going to ramp up. I don't think Trump has a platform to run on, obviously. I don't think Republicans have a policy agenda. So chaos is all they have. And I expect it to come out in a big way starting tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, look, January 6th is like their national holiday now. It should be a day. Look, part of this is our own fault, Democrats' fault. Yeah, we talk about it on our own liberal podcasts and liberal TV stations, but we haven't done enough to really show the American people what happened that day and remind them day in and day out. And we've allowed them to rewrite the narrative on it. Now, $1 billion is about to be spent on a campaign against Donald Trump, and I'm pretty sure that this will be a big part of that campaign. So we'll see what kind of impact that money has.
Yeah.
But Republicans have been spinning their wheels. Every time I look at a poll about January 6th, less and less blame is being placed on Trump, and most people don't even want to talk about it anymore.
And that has, in my view, everything to do with the fact that they have, invested heavily in spin machines. Every time I turn around, there's a new documentary. There's a new truth, other than what we saw with our own eyes. Because you're lying eyes, Chris. You didn't see them break those windows.
It's a little, they have their own little media machine.
It's not little.
And the problem for us is that it's very focused, their media machine, right? They watch Fox, they watch Newsmax, they buy things still, right? Democrats aren't in a business where people are buying anything anymore. Like we're like all spread out. People who are liberal don't watch the news all day. They watch other things. They have other entertainment interests in their lives. I feel like conservatives spend a lot of their time watching news. News, by the way, designed to keep them angry all the time. And anger is a very powerful emotion, right? It's really something's got to break it. I don't know what it's going to be.
Chris, I got to be honest. I think Biden's got a good record to run on. I like the things he's done. I like the fact that we're investing in infrastructure. I like the fact that we're reshoring manufacturing. I love the fact that we're moving away from some neoliberal policies that I think have been destroying us for too long.
Across this country, gas is below $3 a gallon, right? I also love the fact that whenever, this is what I want Biden to do. Every time they mention the economy under Trump, they always forget about the year 2020.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the year 2020 because Trump was president in the year 2020. And the year 2020, in my opinion, was one of the worst. It was definitely the worst year of my lifetime. And one of the worst economic years ever in this nation. Oh, yeah, gas was $1.25 a gallon. Nobody was driving anywhere. They were not allowed to drive. We were locked in our homes due to a pandemic that man allowed to come to this country. And why are we not blaming him for it? Because I'm telling you right now, if Obama was president in 2020, they'd be blaming Obama for the freaking pandemic. And I'm going to blame Trump every chance I get for that pandemic. Because, by the way, he cut USAID funding that had bases in Wuhan, China, to warn us against pandemics. He took that out of the budget himself. Penny wise, pound foolish.
No, I'm right there with you.
Reason why we weren't prepared for it. Then he wanted to ignore it. He ignored it for 4 months. And then when it was here, he told us all to stay home. He locked us down. He locked down our economy. He caused the biggest recession since the Great Depression. Him. And we're talking about he created negative jobs in his 4 years as president. He's the first president since Herbert Hoover to create negative jobs on his watch. You want to say he was good for the economy? The economy is getting good right now. It is revving up. People are feeling it. You're starting to see Biden's numbers on the economy inch up. If it continues in this direction in October, people are going to be feeling really good about the economy. And if Biden partners that with a message how this man destroyed our economy, created negative jobs, the country lost jobs during the Trump administration. We ended the Trump administration with almost 600,000 fewer jobs than we started with. 20 million jobs lost in the year 2020 because of his incompetence, right? So, we got to get on message here. We got to stop beating around the freaking bush. You want to talk about the economy? Don't talk about the economy with me. I'll talk about the year 2020. Oh, you can't blame. Yes, I can, and I will. He's the president. The buck stops with him. The economy shut down because of him. And then he increased our debt by $4 trillion. That year. Him. That year. Not me. Not Joe Biden.
$8 trillion over the course of his entire presidency. A quarter of our debt. Because just the other day, we hit $34 trillion, and all my right-wing friends we hit $34 trillion. It's all Biden's fault. They go, no. It's not all Biden's fault.
No.
You can thank Reagan. You can thank Bush. You can thank and Trump. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. It's insane.
It is insane. So the last line of questioning I've got for you, because there's a lot of talk of lack of enthusiasm. There's a lot of talk of those polling numbers are the worst ever. Concerned about this at all?
No, I'm more worried about Joe Biden if Donald Trump is not the nominee. Let's say, like I said, it appears right now that Trump's going to roll. What if he doesn't? Trump was winning in the Iowa caucuses in 2016 and then came in third. in the polls. He was in first in the polls, and wasn't as far ahead as he is now, but he was in first. The Iowa caucuses are a very funny thing. People got to go there, they got to stand up, and they got to say, "I'm with this guy," and people make speeches, right? And their neighbors
around
make
and all
speeches.
kinds of stuff. Yeah,
yeah, it's a very strange thing. I don't like it. I don't think it should be the first in the nation of anything, but it's a strange thing.
I like the participatory nature of it. I love the community part of it.
Yeah, but it's like you got to take off from work. You got to get down there at a specific time. It's a whole thing. It's not very democratic.
It could also be gamed. I mean, there's some stories of people buying.
He's got a good organization on the ground, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Trump does a real organization, which he didn't have in 2016.
But as I said for a while ago,
let's say he doesn't do. Let's say he gets right now. They're saying, oh, he's going to get like 65% in Iowa. Let's say he gets 45% and wins. He wins with 45%. Nikki Haley gets 35%. Is that really a win? Is he the invincible, inevitable guy then?
Yeah.
No, he is not.
That's a good question.
A message had been sent then that more than 50% of Republicans in Iowa did not think he should be president. Now you go into New Hampshire, and Nikki Haley has a chance to win in New Hampshire. She's got a chance to win in New Hampshire right now. She's pretty close in New Hampshire right now. Okay, so she's got a chance to win in New Hampshire. If she wins New Hampshire, the next state is her home state. I think it's game on if he's under 50 in Iowa. So, and I think he's going to be under 50 in Iowa. So I don't think he's as inevitable for the reasons I just gave you. I don't know. When you got to start thinking about it, you really got to start making a decision. You gotta weigh his entire record. And January, I get it. Republicans are going to dismiss January 6th as, oh, this is just some liberal. They're mad about these guys and a couple of people or whatever. Okay, you could dismiss that, but can you dismiss the entire year 2020? It was the worst year in the history of this country.
Yeah, but most of my red hat friends have already blamed Biden for the whole thing. In fact, they've rewritten that as well. That it's not the Chinese anymore who released the violence. It was Democrats.
Look, there are 30% of Republicans that will dismiss everything this guy ever did.
Correct.
Right? I have a crazy Republican friend that was really on me about Bill Clinton being on the Jeffrey Epstein list. I'm like, so is Trump. They're like, well, you have Trump derangement syndrome. I'm like, no, Trump's running for president. Bill Clinton is not. Right? When somebody's running for president and they wind up on the Jeffrey Epstein list, it probably warrants a little bit more attention. And by the way, I didn't need him to be on the list. I've seen pictures of him and interviews of them together. I know he was an associate of Jeffrey Epstein. Oh, but Hillary Clinton had him killed in prison. No, Trump controlled that prison. It was a federal prison that he controlled. So if anybody had him killed in prison, it was Trump.
Now you're
so what, these guys will dismiss everything for this guy. And that's not everybody, though. I don't think it's everybody. I mean, you and I have traveled this country. You're more in touch with the heartland than I am. But I've been to the heartland, and they are some of the nicest people I've ever met. Welcoming, accommodating. How could they go for a guy who's just a mean, I don't want to use foul language, but he's just a mean guy.
Yeah,
a nasty human being. There's nothing nice about him.
And looking for vengeance.
People, I've been to Iowa. How are nice people in Iowa voting for one of the worst human beings on the planet? He's just not nice. Look, even if you don't think he's the worst human being on the planet, we can all agree he's not nice.
And the other thing is he doesn't have an agenda that's going to help people. I mean, that's the part. There's nothing there. There's no there. That's
other than becoming president again. I don't even know why he's running for president. Like, what is the point? What is your agenda? Nothing.
Nothing.
Well, my agenda is to be president.
No, his agenda is to pay back. The agenda is retribution. That's the agenda, Chris. But
retribution for what? For losing the presidency? I don't even honestly.
Because you were mean to me. You said bad things. You said very bad things, Chris.
He could start a podcast, and we'd all cover it.
I'd listen.
Yeah, I'd listen too. He's very entertaining. But it's just it is what it is.
There it is. Chris, I appreciate the time as always. I hope your prediction's right. I don't.
I look. You know what? This is the thing about predictions when you're a pundit. This is why I'm a pundit, right? you got to make a big, bold prediction. If you're right, you play the tape.
There
If
you
you're
go.
wrong, everybody forgets.
Rolled the dice.
Hey.
Chris Hahn,
All right,
appreciate
man.
the time, man. Thanks so much.
Anytime.
Our good friend Chris Hahn, the aggressive progressive. Make sure you check out his podcast wherever you get your favorite podcast. Going to take a quick break. Right back. Stick around. You listen to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk.
The old factory towns in America's heartland have been taking a beating. Thing is, though, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And after years of politicians talking about it, they finally passed a big new infrastructure package to rebuild roads and bridges, fix drinking water systems, and make the energy grid more secure. We're finally turning things around after 40 years of screwing over working people. But will we keep moving in the right direction? That's our choice as Americans.
It doesn't matter what kind of weather. It doesn't matter what time of day or night. When Mother Nature's done her worst, the only thing that matters to us is keeping the lights on for you. The hardworking women and men of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, dedicated to keeping the power on in communities all across the country. Because when bad weather strikes, we know what matters most. IBEW, the power professionals.
Before we close the program, we want to take a moment to thank our viewers and to share a little bit about why we do what we do. At The Rick Smith Show, we believe that media today is almost entirely controlled by corporate greed. So we have now 24-hour news channels. But instead of 24 hours of news, what we get is 1 hour repeated 24 times, and with tons of commercials creating obscene amounts of profits. Information once presented as a public service has now become a private commodity. So when lies make money, lies are what we get. We get a corporate-controlled rage machine feeding us anger and hate, trying to convince us that our problems are right, left, or red, blue, when they are and always have been up, down, the wealthiest 1% versus the rest of us. Our goal is to be an alternative to that machine, not as a news show with a fancy journalist out front, but as a talk show run by a union truck driver and a team of working class heroes just like you. Everything we do, both what we get right and what we get wrong, is dedicated to advancing the interests of America's working families. No corporate ad buys, no think tanks, no focus groups, no talking points. We are media by working people for working people. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time.